Hello. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about percentages of amounts. Now, percentages can be a little confusing. So what does the word percentage actually mean? Well, it comes from Latin per centum, which means by 100. And centum, words like century, 100 years, centipede, 100 legs, what else? Cent, 100 cents in a dollar, things like that, all come from the word Latin word centum. Anyway, the symbol is like that, little circle slash little circle. So you might, for example, have a question like, what is 10% of 420? Question mark. So with maths, often the best way of thinking about it is visually, to have a picture in your head of what it means. And with numbers, I think the best way to think about numbers is as number lines. This is kind of a number arrow, but it'll do. So I've got there a percentage number line, and it goes from 0% there to 100%. And the line for the number will go from 0, it's not percent this time, it's just 0 because it's just a number, to 420, which is 100%. The whole number, 100%, is 100%. So you can say, I'm 100% full of pizza. I'm 100% happy. It means you're completely happy. You couldn't be happier. So 100% is the whole number, 420. And it's worth actually just writing that down. It might seem obvious, but sometimes it's the most obvious things that become the least obvious. So let's do 400% of 420 is 420. Great, done. So now we want 10% of 420. Now on this number line, 50% is probably somewhere about there, isn't it? It's about 50% is going to be about there. Okay, fair enough. So 10%, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 40, 30, 20. 10% is probably about there, isn't it, on that percentage number line? So for the number itself, 420, 10% is actually going to be there, which is going to be 42. Because 100% divided by 10 is 10%. 10% is a tenth of 100. 10 times 10 is 100. A tenth of 420 is 420 divided by 10. And when you divide numbers with zeros on the end, you can just get rid of the 0 on the end, which we'll talk about in a different video. So 10% of 420 is 42. Done. Good. Let's go on to the next one, shall we? Let's do another one. Let's just practice. I think with maths, awfully important just to practice as many exercises as you can. So what about 10% of 120? Question mark. Well, again, we'll do our number line, shall we? There's our percentage number line. There's our number line. So again, for the percentage, 0% and 100%. And for the number itself, there's 0, which is the same as 0%. And the whole number, the whole thing is going to be 120. 100% of the number, the whole number is 120. Now 10%, as we said before, is back down here. 10% is a tenth of 100. So now we have to find a tenth of 120. We need to divide 120 by 10. Well, with dividing by 10, we can get rid of the 0 on the end. That's going to be 12, isn't it? So 10% of, well, I've got a little of then in mind, 120 is 12. We've divided 120 by 10. We've divided 100 by 10 to get 10%. So that's 12. Done. Should we do one more? Oopsie daisy, where are we? Right, okay, so another one is going to be 10% of 650. Question mark. Well, again, I'm going to do my number lines. You'll reach a point where you don't need to do number lines because you can kind of visualize it in your head. But until then, there's nothing wrong with scribbling things that help you visualize or have pictures in your head of the problem or the question. So there, 0% is there, and then 100% is there. Lovely. 0 is there, not percent for the number. Now 100%, the whole number, as we said before, is 650. Okay, 100% of 650 is 650. Fine. Now we want 10% again. So 100 divided by 10 is 10%. There we are, a tenth of 100. A tenth of 650 is 650 divided by 10, which is going to be 65. We can write it down like this as well. 10% of 650 is 65. We've divided 100 by 10. And we've divided 650 by 10 to get 65. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense anyway. So obviously you won't only be asked to get 10% of a number with percentages of amounts. You might be asked questions like, what's 15% of a number? So let's say 15% of 320. And actually with that one, it's the same principle. So it might look more horrid, but it really isn't. So let's have a look at our number lines again. Number line, number line, number line. Can't have too many number lines. So then the percentage, obviously 0% is there. 100% is the whole number, which is 320. 0%, 320. And again, 100% of 320 is the whole thing, 320. Now let's do what we've done before, which is find 10%, which in this case is going to be 32. 10% of 320 is 32. Okay, so now we don't want 10%, we want 15%, don't we? But what we can do is when they want a number like 15%, we can find the building blocks of 15% and add them together. So if we find out, for example, what is, I haven't got left myself space to do this, but 5%, well, 5 is half of 10%. 5% is half of 10%. So we know that 10% is 32. So 5% is half of 32, which is going to be 16. So 5% of 320 is 16. So now, because that's half, we could say divide by 2 there, couldn't we? Put a little divide by 2 there. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So now we've got the building blocks because 10% plus 5% is 15%. So what we have to do here is we have to add 10%, which is 32, and 5%, which is 16, and we'll get 15%. So let's do a little column addition. 32 and 16. Well, 6, 7, 8, 3, 4 is going to be 48. Nice. So 15% of 320 is 48. Hopefully that makes some sense. Now let's do an even more complicated one, which is sometimes you'll get a question like 7%. 7% of 600. What's that? And you think, oh. But actually you can use the same process of having building blocks. So let's again do our number line. I'll make it a bit longer actually, because it'll make it easier. Our two number lines, one for the percentage, one for the number. So of course, 0% is there. 100% is there. Now we know that, the whole number, 100% of the number is 600. Let's write that down. 100% of 600 is 600, the whole number. So now, let's get 10%. It's always good, usually good to get 10% because it's easy to do, isn't it? 10%, well, that's 10% there. What's 10% of 600? 600 divided by 10, which is, oh my gosh, I've made a little boo-boo. I shouldn't have put a percentage there, should I? Naughty Daniel. 0, 0, 0. I hope you all spotted that. So then, a tenth of 600 is 60. Because 600 divided by 10 is 60. We lose a 0. So 10% of 600 is 60. But we want 7%. So let's just get 5% of 600 equals, well, 5%, I haven't really left myself space to do this, but 5% is half of 10%. Half of 60 is 30. So 5% of 600 is 30. But we still need to get 7%. Another good one to do is 1%. 1% of 600. Well, 1%, I really haven't left myself space to do 1%, but let's just write it in there. 1% is 100th of 100. 100 divided by 100 is 1. So if we do 600 divided by 100, we'll get 1%. And 1% is also, you could think of it as a tenth of 60. A tenth of 10%, it's going to be 6. So 5% is 30, and now 1% is 600. Well, 7% is 5% plus 2%. So let's just do 2%. So 2% of 600 is going to be 12, because 1% is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1% is 2%. So now we've got 5% and we've got 2%, haven't we? So 5 plus 2 is 7. So 7% of 600. Let's add 2%, which is 12, and 5%, which is 30. 30 add 12. 0 plus 2, 2. 3 plus 1, 42. The answer is 42, the meaning of everything. If you're a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Well, you're probably too young. Anyway, so you see 7% of 600 is now 42. So I do hope this little video has helped you to understand percentages of amounts. And thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.